Hi, my name's Sam and welcome to Gorcott Hill here in the heart of England Forest. We have over 150 ponds in the heart of England Forest, many of which, like this one, we have done quite a lot of work in trying to get into a better shape, some which we're still working on, and there are many ponds which we're also creating, like up the road where we have created 4 new ponds at Oakwood which are already being taken over by dragonflies and other wetland vegetation. We are taking part in Freshwater Habitats Trust's spawn survey. We're looking for frogs and toads which are spawning in the forest. Why are we looking for frogs and toads in the forest? Well, at the moment we actually have relatively few records of them. They're one of these things that people see as an aside as they go out, so we get them as miscellaneous records. We haven't done surveys for them like butterflies where we have lots of records, so we'd like to know more where they are in the forest. They're really good indicators of where ponds are good and where we can improve on the habitat in making ponds better. So a pond like this should hopefully have a lot of frog spawn and toad spawn in because we've done some good stuff to it, whereas one which is poorer might only have a couple of clumps, and it's something we can then target to make it better. Why are frogs and toads so good? Well, they at the start are brilliant as a food source for other animals. So because they have so much frog spawn and toad spawn, a lot of those small tadpoles and eggs get eaten by other animals, and even the frogs themselves are the main food source for things like grass snakes. So they're excellent to keep other animals going. However, they're also very good at eating other animals themselves. So things like slugs, snails, they keep those in check. Otherwise, without things like frogs, they'd run away and we'd get a lot of them, and they would then affect the habitats in negative ways themselves. So they're all part of keeping everything in balance. In a pond like this, where would you look for frog and toad spawn then? Well, as you can see in the centre here, or I can see, there is lots of emergent vegetation which is coming up from the bottom of the pond and floating across the surface. That is perfect for toads to spawn in, and they will, unlike frogs, have long strings of eggs which they wrap around the vegetation. That's how you tell the difference. Whereas frogs, as I think most people have seen, have big clumps which they just put in masses around. So if you see clumps, you know it's frogs. If you see it wrapped around like that, it's toads. Now, what if you actually see one in the water? How do you identify it? Or even if it's on the side of the pond on land? Frogs are a lot more athletic. They hop and jump long distances. Toads, they crawl a bit more. If they hop, it's not very far at all. Their skin is very different. Frogs are smooth and wet, whereas toads look dry and warty. Frogs also will have a black mark behind their ear and eye here, whereas toads, if they have that, it's much further back on their head. So from those you can generally identify which is a frog, which is a toad. For this survey we're looking for frog spawn, toad spawn. If you see frog spawn, we want to know how many clumps you see. Now if it's a pond like this where it could have loads in, we don't want the exact number, so don't just go, oh there's 53. Have an estimate, that's what we're looking for. Toad spawn, you don't need to do that, you just need to know if it's there. You can't really count the strings. As well as that, it's really important if we know if you see frogs there or toads, and as I said, also an estimate of how many numbers are there. Around 10, are there 12, do you only see 1? After frog spawn and toad spawn, of course, we have tadpoles, and of course you don't have to count all of those because you could have literally tens of thousands in a pond like this, and you can't really count that. So all you need to do is say, yes, I did see them, or no, I didn't see them. What else we want to know is when did you see the tadpoles on the frog spawn, or whenever you visited to see what was in a pond. Of course, along with the date, we want to know exactly where you found the frog spawn or toad spawn in the forest. You can find this out using an app like What3Words. If you download that and go onto that, it should tell you, using the What3Words code, whereabouts that frog or toad spawn is within 3 meters squared. You can do that on either end of the pond, we'll get close enough. In fact, it could be important for you to go around a pond like I have, because at an angle like this, I won't know if there's toad spawn in there because of the glare of the sun. Just make sure that you're a good distance back from the pond so you don't end up falling in. Of course, that's how you find frog and toad spawn in the forest, but whereabouts would you find frogs and toads? Well, at this time of year, it's still pretty cold. A lot of them will still be in hibernation, so they'll be either hibernating even in the bottom of a pond like this, in the silt. They might go to wood piles and hibernate in those, particularly toads. You will often find at the bottom of log piles, so it's important not to disturb those if you see them out and about. as it moves into the summer and certainly the spring they'll be in places like this spawning. In the summer they'll still have some of them in ponds like this, but quite a lot may move out and you'll find them in damp areas nearby ponds or even further away, as long as they can stay nice and moist so they're not getting dried out. So once you've gone and looked at a lovely pond like this, or even a wheelrut, and seen the frog spawn there, you can then go to our website and input the results into a dedicated form we'll have on a web page there. You can find out more about frogs and toads in the forest on that web page. And if you go around our website, you can find more about birds in the forest, butterflies in the forest, and everything that we're doing to protect wildlife in this bit of Worcestershire and Warwickshire. Once the results have been inputted there, we'll be passing those on to the Freshwater Habitats Trust so they get an idea of how frog spawn and toad spawn is doing in our area of the country on a national scale. Thank you for doing this, and I hope you enjoy your time going around in the forest and finding frog spawn and toad spawn for us.